last December, former President Jimmy Carter passed away at the age of 100. Though his presidency was somewhat divisive, many agree that his work beyond the Oval Office has solidified Carter's legacy as one of philanthropy, humanitarianism, and kindness. James Earl Carter Jr. was born on October 1st, 1924, in Plains, Georgia. He was the first of four children born to Bessie Gordon, a registered nurse, and James Carter Sr., a U.S. Army veteran and businessman. After graduating from high school in 1941, Carter attended the Georgia Institute of Technology, where he studied engineering. Whilst at Georgia Tech, he participated in the Reserve Officers Training Corps, or ROTC. Through his involvement in ROTC, Carter was later able to transfer to the Naval Academy in 1943, from which he graduated in 1946 with a Bachelor of Science degree. It was during his time at the academy that he met his wife, Rosalind, whom he later married in 1946 and would remain with until her death in 2023. From 1946 to 1961, Carter served in the Navy in both active and later inactive duty. He eventually retired from the service with the rank of lieutenant. After his service, he returned to Plains and tended to his father's peanut farm, which, over the course of several years, he and his wife were able to grow the farm into a successful business. His political career began when he won the election to the Georgia State Senate in 1962. Afterwards, he ran in the Georgia gubernatorial elections in 1966 and 1970, but only won in 1970 after running what was considered by some to be an ultra-conservative and, if we're being frank, kind of racist campaign. Immediately after taking office, though, Carter recanted the rhetoric he used and reversed his stances, decrying Georgia's racist politics. After his gubernatorial term ended in 1975, Carter decided to run in the 1976 presidential election, with his running mate being Walter Mondale. Despite low recognition and a following at first, Carter managed to thrust himself into the public eye and gain a large following due to his outsider to Washington reputation. Carter was also helped by the election's proximity to the Watergate scandal. Having only taken place 2 years prior, Carter was able to leverage the scandal to prop himself up as a change from the previous administration in terms of integrity and transparency. Carter and Mondale managed to win the election by a small margin, thus making Jimmy the 39th president. Carter's presidency was filled with both positives and negatives. Carter made several strides in the realm of civil rights, such as implementing Asian American History Week and lifting the military ban on gay and lesbian personnel. He also sought to place emphasis on education, and under his presidency, funding allocated for non-defense purposes nearly doubled. Carter also attempted to pass legislation that would make healthcare more accessible to Americans, but it was defeated in the Senate. For all the good that came out of the Carter administration, there were also some unavoidable problems. During his presidency, the economy was in a bit of a downturn. Unemployment was up, and prices and inflation were rising. Carter also possessed a poor relationship with Congress and was often at odds with several members, causing animosity to sprout between the executive and legislative branches. The energy crisis was also a key concern to Americans at the time, and many of Carter's proposed solutions did little to ease the worries of the public, with many feeling Carter was becoming disconnected. The last straw, though, for Carter's presidency would come in 1979 during the Iranian hostage crisis, during which members of the Muslim student followers of Imam's line seized the Tehranian U.S. Embassy and took 52 American diplomats hostage. They would be held hostage for over a year until January 20th, 1981. During the crisis, Carter attempted to launch Operation Eagle Claw to rescue the hostages. However, the operation failed horribly and resulted in the death of 8 servicemen and the destruction of 2 aircraft. The fallout from the incident tanked just about any chance Carter had for re-election, leading to his defeat in the 1980 election to Ronald Reagan. After leaving the Oval Office, Carter would eventually take up diplomatic roles on behalf of the U.S. He worked in several countries, including North Korea, Taiwan, South Africa, Sudan, Cyprus, and also traveled to many parts of the Middle East. He was often an advocate for peaceful and mediated solutions to conflict, as well as the introduction of democracy to countries where otherwise it had been a bit scarce, to say the least. Carter was also greatly involved in humanitarian affairs, such as providing money for homes to be rebuilt in the wake of Hurricane Katrina and other related relief for Hurricanes Harvey and Irma. He also founded the Carter Center in 1982 with the mission of fighting for civil rights, assisting medical research, and just all around improving the quality of life for people around the world. Through the organizations, diseases such as dracunculiasis, I want to say, have been nearly eradicated. Carter eventually received his own presidential library for his humanitarian efforts. On December 29th, 2024, Jimmy Carter passed away at his home in Plains, Georgia, at the age of 100 years old. He was subsequently laid to rest on January 9th, 2025. For most presidents, holding the office for their 1 or 2 terms is often the highlight of their life and legacy. But in the case of Jimmy Carter, it's clear to see that his legacy of humility, humanitarianism, and progress began long before he stepped into the Oval Office and continued long after he left it. With the Thunderbeat, I'm Andrew Callison.